Welcome to From the Shed End. Welcome back. We're live. Welcome back. If you're new to the channel, please make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you do all of that good stuff. Make sure you go and listen to the audio version of the podcast as well. Bournemouth. We're going to get into Bournemouth a little bit later. I want to touch on a couple other things before then. Obviously, Enzo Maresca has just done his press conference for the game tomorrow. So we've kind of maybe gleaned a couple of things that will come out of what's been a busy period for Chelsea in the international break. We're going to try and cover some of that off in this video, in this live stream. So if you get involved, make sure you drop your thoughts in the chat. Make sure you let us know what you're thinking and all of that stuff throughout the duration of this live stream. And again, obviously, if you're listening to this afterwards, again, leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. But yeah, let's start with some of the kind of the stuff that we picked up on the podcast last week when we're speaking about Todd Boehly, Eghbali, Clearlake versus Todd Boehly and all the rest of it. And it seems to be that this issue is not going to go away. And it seems like now what we're hearing from reports and all the rest of it, that this is now at a point where Todd Boehly is not happy with Eghbali's not happy with Todd Boehly. The situation seems to be that they have clearly different visions and ideas for the club going forward. This is not good, Chelsea fans. This is not good at all. This is something that you do not want at your club. And I remember saying on the podcast last week, this is one of those things that when these kind of things happen, it's going to be a long drawn out thing that I don't think we're going to see. Personally, don't think we're going to see a conclusion to this for a while, just simply because there's so many nuances to what happens and so many layers to it that people just don't get it. They just don't get how difficult it's going to be. We're talking about £1 billion company. We're talking about two massive egos, power heads that are trying to flex their muscles at the very top of what seems to be a catalogue of chaos at the club already. If I'm going to be honest, though, I feel like Todd Boehly has the ball in his court at the moment. He has his own money. His equity, where it's a minority stake in the club, is his own money. Clearlake is clearly, advisories looking after other people's investments in the club. So, for Todd Boehly, he's definitely, for me, in the more of a... he's definitely in a more controlled, relaxed environment. He's the one that kind of, for me, has all the pulling power in terms of being able to kind of orchestrate how he wants the club to run. Ideally, for me, I would love to see Todd Boehly, from what I've been reading anyway. I don't want to sort of jump the gun and say that I know everything that's going on, because I actually don't. But for me, Todd Boehly is the one that seems to want to do the right things for the club in terms of bringing in players that will be able to play now. He wanted to keep Raheem Sterling. He was against sacking Maurizio Pochettino. All of the things that ideally, if you're running a football club and you're halfway through a project and you're trying to transition a team since the change of ownership, you want all those things to go your way. You want all those things to be, you want to be given an opportunity to do things in the right way, and things are going to take time to materialize. You're not going to see the benefits of what you're trying to do straight away at anything you do. So for me, Todd Boehly seems like he was the one that wanted to do that and give Pochettino the time, bring in the players, the Enzo Fernandezes and Moises Caicedos and Raheem Sterling, whereas Eghbali and the others in the board members want to try and bring in these youngsters and almost turn it into just a business, literally just a business. Flip the players, bring in a player for 15 million, take out a player and sell him for 20 million and make a bit of profit off them, which I'm not against that, but also we have to see results on the pitch as well. And that's the ultimate thing. As a football fan, I think I said it last week, I've said it before on here, fans don't care about things that go on off the field. Realistically, we shouldn't really care. It's not our money, it's not our problems. It impacts the club, obviously, it impacts the players eventually if it trickles down that far. But in terms of what we want to see on a Saturday, when we walk out to Vitality tomorrow, all we want is 3 points and a good result and a good performance. So all the other stuff that comes in between it, all the other stuff that kind of is there at the moment and it's happening above us as fans and obviously as the players, for me, we can't allow that. And I say we, the players can't allow that to affect them on the football pitch as they go about their business, because we've seen it before where, yeah, other clubs, Manchester United's a prime example at the moment where, those things that happen at the top have always impacted what's happening on on the pitch for the players, and the morale drops, and the manager's not getting the buy-in from the players because of all the uncertainty that's happening in and around the ground and in and around the club. So we have to make sure that that does not happen at Stamford Bridge, because we are still in a transitional period. For me, we're still in that stage where we're hoping, we get to see, some progress this season. But at the same time as well, we have to understand that there's still a lot to be done, a lot to unpick, a lot to integrate into this squad. There's still a lot of new players that are coming in. Their first season still at Chelsea. Sancho, Felix, again, obviously on loan last time, but Pedro Neto, another one. So we've got players coming in, Renato, Vega, that have to embed into this squad amongst chaos. One thing for me, and I have to say this, one thing for me is this game coming up tomorrow will tell me the sort of manager, and we're going to talk about the press conference shortly, but this is going to tell me the sort of manager that Enzo Maresca is, because can he handle this sort of pressure when all this sort of chaos is going on around him? Is he still able to churn out a result, churn out a good performance, get the players playing the way that he wants them to play, drown out that noise that's going on around the club at the moment, the dark cloud? Can he get a result? And I think this is where we're going to separate a good manager from a really good manager in terms of Enzo Maresca, because can he do that? I personally think he can. I think, I listened to him. I said when we signed him, or when he was appointed manager, that he's saying all the right things and ticking all the right boxes for me at the moment. Whether that be players that aren't involved in the team, they're not going to be involved in the team. Him coming out and saying to them, you're not in the team. Ben Chilwell, Raheem Sterling, just two of the big ones there. David Dacha Fofana. Him coming out and saying those things in the press conference is something that I can buy into. And even listening to bits of what he said in previous press conferences, it's impressive what he's saying, straight to the point. I think that's what we need at the club at the moment. We need someone who's just going to be straight to the point and not beat around the bush with anything that he's doing. So for me, I'm impressed with a lot of what I'm hearing there, I'll be honest. But can he get a result at the Vitality? Obviously, Kepa's on loan there. He won't be playing tomorrow, which is probably a bit of good news for us. But we do have to... I'm trying to think the last game that we played was at the Moises Caicedo halfway goal. I feel like it was. But yeah, I think we have to get a good result there. Now we are going to talk about all of that stuff. Let's dive in to the press conference, because I feel like the press conference is obviously, I mean, it's not as and of course it's gone off the thing, but it's all right. We'll get it back. Let's get straight back to it. Let's find it. We can't even play the YouTube one, because if we play the YouTube one, it will we'll get a strike on the channel, which isn't ideal. Right, let's click on this. This should give us word for word what was said. Yeah, here we go. Obviously, we do know Ben Chilwell. There's a lot that was said about Ben Chilwell in today's press conference as well. We also know that Reece James and Lavia potentially won't be in the squad. Well, they won't be in the squad tomorrow. We know that Malagusto's out tomorrow as well. It seems like there was a good bit of press. One thing with the press conferences, I do hate those questions, man. They ask some stupid questions, like just stupid. Like, can you imagine being a journalist? You've been to university, you've got your degree as a journalist, and you're asking stupid questions to a football manager. Never understand that at all. But here we go. Let's see what he said first of all. Obviously, he's talking about Enzo's position. So he's put, it's very, very difficult in the way we play that we can find a midfielder that can attack like an attacking midfielder and defend like a defensive midfielder. Arsenal used Declan Rice, City used Gundogan in the past. In our case, we're trying to find a balance and find a solution. At the moment, Enzo is the only one when we have the ball playing like an attacking midfielder and off the ball dropping off with Mo to find the defensive balance. I think he's on about Moy there, Moises Caicedo. So, interesting from Maresca, because I feel like I get it. Like, you need to fit in your £100 million player somewhere. You can't have £100 million player and not play him. Obviously that's a big thing. Again, there might be some pressure from higher up in terms of Bowley and Egbali and whoever else to say that, look, he has to be in this team. He's been captain majority of the season so far. I personally think playing him in an attacking midfield role didn't work. We got to see it against I think it was Man City. He played the opening game and it didn't work really. He kind of wasn't sure whether he should be pressing going forward or whether he should be dropping back and helping in that midfield, and he was almost caught in no man's land a lot of the time for me. So if we are going to play Enzo, which it looks like we will tomorrow if Lavia isn't fit, he needs to be alongside Moises Caicedo. One of them presses forward, the other one sits back and holds their shape, keeps that midfield tight, and I think Moises Caicedo is probably the better one to do that in the midfield role for me in that position there. But it then goes on to talk about Chukwuemeka. I really like Carney, but we have so many attacking midfielders, and is he going to find space? Interesting, because obviously with Carney Chukwuemeka, again, another player that really should be playing regular football. He had some really good spells under Pochettino as well. So he's had some moments where he's got into the team and he's played really well. He had a couple of games in the FA Cup as well. But we have to find a space for him. If we can't, then he needs to go out on loan. For me, that should have been one of the vital things that we made sure happened before the window shut a couple of weeks ago, because he's got the quality, he's got the talent, he can play at that level. It's just a shame for him that he's got 3 or 4 players ahead of him that are just maybe that little bit more preferred or a little bit better in terms of what they can bring to the team. So I do feel for Carney Chukwuemeka, a player that for me personally is easily a player that can get into a Premier League 11, starting 11, because he's got the quality to do that. He was breaking through the Villa team. If you think about before we signed him, he's doing some really good stuff there at Villa, but to not see him playing regular football, it's only going to hamper his development for me. So I would have sent him on loan this season. Clearly, Maresca isn't a massive fan of trying to find space for him. It goes back to my point of what I said in terms of, how do you find space for all of these players? He's just one of. There's other players that are going to need that same room to improve or room to showcase what they can do for the manager. He might get a chance in maybe the cup games. We've got Barrow coming up very soon, so he might get an opportunity there to do something. But I just don't see how we can fit Carney Chukwuemeka in when we've got Pedro Neto, we've got Christopher Nkunku, Cole Palmer. We have all these players ahead of him already that can play in that role, and I just don't see where he fits in, unfortunately, for us at the moment. Jadon Sancho, a question around Jadon Sancho in the press conference today as well. So I did catch this little bit actually, but I think he said, Maresca, he said, I decide the first 11, it depends on the training sessions. Jadon is one of our wingers. I'm seeing him exactly the way I was expecting him. Now it's a matter to find the right moments for him to give him a chance. So that kind of indicates that we won't see Jadon Sancho start the game tomorrow. We might see potentially come off the bench. I think, if I'm honest, which we're going to get onto our predicted lineup, but I feel like Maresca might try and stick and keep the spine of the team, if you can call it that. Try and keep the spine of the team as it is going forward, because I think realistically, you want to keep that consistency. That level of change doesn't really help when you swap and change your squad too much. You don't find that consistency, and that's what we've had a massive problem with over the last couple of seasons. On to a bit of injury news as well. So like I said, Lavia, Reece James, Maresca was asked about them in a press conference earlier on today as well. I think he's confirmed. Obviously, Romeo is very close, hopefully for the next game. Unfortunately, he needs more time. I think he was on about Reece James there. I don't know why they've sort of paraphrased what it was said, but they were talking about Reece James, that he needs more time. He will not be included in tomorrow's matchday squad. Neither, I believe, will Malo Gusto. So begs the question, who's going to play right back? Axel Disasi is probably the most preferred in that respect, in terms of what he'll probably bring. He's played there before when he's had to fill in for Gusto and James when they've not been fit or available. So I think we'll see Disasi at right back tomorrow against Man City, and started really well. But we've got to keep him fit, man. And this is, again, goes back to my point about the Conference League squad, why we haven't got players like him in that team. Because, you know, if we're struggling to keep him fit again, back-to-back seasons, we have to minimise and manage his minutes, for me personally, in a better way. And if that means he's not in a Conference League, he's not travelling to Kazakhstan and all these mad places, I think we need to try and wrap him in cotton wool alongside Cole Palmer as well in that degree for me. But question was asked to Maresca on the ownership. So again, he's come out, he said, I've said many times, we've started 2 months ago, so we need to know each other. If I spend the energy on something different, it's not worth it. My focus is just on tomorrow's game. To be honest, in the last week, I focused on the game, preparing in the best way possible. He was also then asked, has he spoken with them? He said, no, I've not spoken with Todd. I spoke with Todd when we played City. I spoke with Begdad days ago. I'm speaking with them both. There is no problem at all. Now, obviously, he's got to say that, hasn't he? He can't come out and say, you know, that they're at loggerheads and they're trying to rip pieces out of each other. He then got asked about, you know, the squad after the transfer window. Maresca went on to say that he feels very lucky because we have many players that can play in different positions. All of the targets we were looking at, they're all here. In terms of players, well, I don't believe that, because obviously Osimhen was a clear target, so bit of bullshit in there. But in terms of players we're looking at that didn't arrive, it's because it's not in our condition. I can't read. I need my glasses. On Ben Chilwell, we will sit with him and find a solution. He's probably going to be back with us in training sessions. Now that's interesting. That's interesting that we've got Ben Chilwell back in training, because obviously if you think back to a couple of weeks ago, Maresca did say that basically there was no way that Ben Chilwell would get minutes for him. He wanted him to leave. The idea was that he would be leaving the club, which again, you know, I didn't agree with. I think the way that he was treated, and Conor Gallagher and Trevor Chalobah were all treated, has been really bad when you think about, you know, there's a way of telling a player that he's not part of the team. And I think, you know, they still integrate them in the training sessions, because you never know, you might need them, as we might now see, you know, Cucurella, another one, we need to manage his minutes. So we kind of need to understand that we haven't really got as much depth. As I said, I went back and done a video about this a couple of weeks ago. We haven't got much depth as we think we have in certain positions of the pitch. He's gone to say we'll see, because at the moment he's not training with us. So he's basically saying that I think Ben Chilwell will be back in training with the team. Whether he gets a game or not is a different question. Obviously, a lot of the transfer windows, in fact, I think all of the European domestic transfer windows are now shut. I think Greece was probably one of the last ones to shut this week. So we'll have to see how that pans out, but it's not looking good for him in terms of what happens to Ben Chilwell. Will we see him again? I don't know. You know, I really do think we've probably seen the last of him there. But more on Ben Chilwell. The reason why he's training apart is because the idea was for him to leave. We didn't find a solution, and here he is. He is probably going to start training with us. He is good, to be honest. He is not training with us. I saw him this morning. He's okay. Of course he's okay. He's on £100 and something thousand a week. Gusto Malo is still out. He's not available for tomorrow's game, as I said before. On set piece defending, we also scored from set pieces. You don't have to just watch the goals we concede. We're going to concede from set pieces and score from set pieces. It's a fair point. Although it does worry me, because we do leak a lot of goals from corners and free kicks, avoidable ones. We've done a lot of that last season, and I'm pretty sure we brought in a set piece coach. I can't remember if that's even a fact, but I'm pretty sure we did. Again, someone asked him about the ownership. Is it a distraction? He went on to say that the players are professional enough to understand that there are things that we cannot control. The main focus for me is exactly the main focus for the players, to improve things. This is the main target for them, for me, for all of us. So it goes back to what I said, you know, in terms of the club, the players, they have to distinguish and separate. So, you know, detach all what's going on. Understand your role at the club. You're there to play football. 8 o'clock comes tomorrow. We've got to win that game against Bournemouth. 3 points has to be a must. So for me, I understand that. I agree with that. And this is what I said before. This is why I like what Maresca's saying, because he's saying things that for me, I'm kind of I'm on Maresca's side. You know, we got to just focus on what we got to focus on and not get carried away and distracted by, you know, the war that's going on upstairs in the boardroom. But more on the ownership, I don't know if something is going to happen. To be honest, on the football side, we're in the right direction. I always use the international break to review the games, and these type of things, it's true we conceded goals, but it's also true that the first shot against Palace was the goal. We didn't concede many chances against City, which is strange against City. Yeah. Let's move on from that before I start ranting. But on what he was working with the squad. So yeah, obviously a lot of the players that were in international break, some of them didn't go. Cole Palmer returned. I don't think he was in training, but Jadon Sancho, some other players were still at Cobham during the international break. So he's probably used this international break to try something new for the future that we can use. Also on some defensive work to try and find some balance. It doesn't mean we're not defending well. Yeah, this is the bit. This is the juicy bit. If anyone who's been not on their phone today, Nicholas Jackson signed an extension to his contract. So his contract is now 2033, I think. So yeah, crazy. Also as well, I think, just very side note to that as well, I think David Datro Fofana did get a move to Greece yesterday. I think it was a option to buy, 20 million, I think, a loan deal with option to buy. We do have a clause in that loan deal to be able to recall him in the January winter window. Now that is a very interesting move from Chelsea, because obviously we well documented now that we wanted Victor Osimhen. It was a massive thing that we were trying to get done before the window shut a couple of weeks ago. That never happened, but you do have to think now, Nicholas Jackson getting that extension is clearly here to stay. David Datro Fofana then might be thinking, if he can go to Greece and perform a little bit better than he did at Burnley, we might be able to use him in the second half of the season. And I think this is kind of that safety net thing, which I'm not against as well. I think obviously if Nicholas Jackson isn't really performing or gets injured, again, we've got a lot of fixtures coming up, the Club World Cup next year as well. David Datro Fofana might be able to come in and fill in for a couple of games as well. So it makes a lot of sense. This is Chelsea's this is the bit I like about Chelsea. As much as we moan about all the players that we bring in and some of the players that we get rid of, to me, that's a good safety net to have, because you might need David Datro Fofana to just fill in for a couple of games, after the busy Christmas period as well. So I'm not against that at all. Makes 100% sense to me. Going on to Nicholas Jackson. So yeah, Maresca went on to say that we're very happy, first of all, because he's doing very well. He's working well on and off the ball. I disagree with that bit about off the ball, but he's kind of player that is always going to score goals. With us, the first 3 Premier League games, he scored goals. Very happy with Nico. I do think with Jackson though, I don't think people, like, when people say that he's rubbish and all that, I don't necessarily agree with that. I just think he's not clinical enough. There's a difference between being really rubbish at what you're doing and not being clinical enough. And I think, yes, he's scoring goals. He's hit like really good numbers for his first season last season. But I think the amount of chances he gets and the amount of chances he misses is the problem for a lot of people. I don't think many people are saying he's rubbish, especially for the age that he is as well. I'm not expecting him to be an Mbappe. Like, obviously, age-wise and all that, you can probably say that's a different. I'm talking quality. I'm not saying he should be at that level or he should be hitting 25 goals a season, but the amount of chances he gets and misses is the concern for me anyway. I'm not saying he's a bad goal scorer, because when he's in form and he scores the goal, he scores the goal. But for me, the worry is how many goals he misses. That's all. I think that's for a lot of players, a lot of fans. I think a lot of fans think that. Let's skip over that. Oh, that was the last one. So let's just quickly go on now. On physicality in his team today, if you want to compare, you need the right balance between the technical side and the physical side. City, Arsenal, Liverpool have those players that are physical strong, but we have that too. And I agree with that. Very interesting words there from Maresca. Looks like he had to kind of weather the storm in terms of what was being asked of him in terms of the ownership and all the rest of it. And like I said, I agree with a lot of it. I think, you have to just detach what's going on at the squad at the moment and just understand that you're there to do a job. 3 points is all we want tomorrow. Now, of course, as I said, we've just gone through the press conference, so we know that certain players will not be ready, fit, available for tomorrow's game, which does give us a bit of a headache in certain areas of the pitch. Now, let's try and... I did write down my predicted squad on here, just because my memory is like a goldfish these days, but it's a bit weird as well. We're playing a really late kickoff, but here we are. Right, let's see. So yeah, now there's 2 things actually. I want to say this actually. There's 2 things. I wouldn't be surprised to see a change in formation for this game tomorrow. I really would not be surprised to see a change in formation. Now, I personally think we'll see Axel Disasi play right back, but I would not be surprised if we go to a three at the back. I wouldn't be surprised to go three at the back in this game. I'm thinking in terms of, obviously, Bournemouth. Let's kind of talk about them as well. They've got Semenyo, they've got Kluivert, Tavernier. They tend to play four at the back. I think their centre backs will be Zabani and Senesi. I think Lewis Cook will be in midfield, probably Ryan Christie. Obviously, they've lost Solanke, which is a massive, massive loss for them. You know, scored 18, I think 19 goals for them last season. Massive, massive player to lose. For Bournemouth, you know, he was a massive goal scorer. He was the one that was getting the goals for them. He was always on the end of the goal, you know, end of a header. So that's one less worry for us to think about. But they still have a threat going forward as terms of Bournemouth go. But I would not be surprised if Maresca potentially changing things. I hope he doesn't do that. And I want him to stick to what he's been doing and trying to, you know, do for the first 3 games of the season by playing the four at the back. I wouldn't be against Axel Disasi, who, it's hard because sometimes when you see him play right back, he looks very comfortable, and then there's times where he just looks out of sorts, out of position, doesn't really know what he's doing, doesn't really get forward as much as maybe, you know, Gusto does or Reece James. So you lose a little bit of that going forward in terms of that creativity on the right side. But I am going to stick with my back four. I'm going to stick with Robert Sanchez in goal, who I think is still question marks over him. Really are question marks over him in terms of what, is he the right person for us? I don't know. We'll have to see. I would stick with him in goal. In fact, no. Yes, I will. I will stick with him. I will, because I think I'm trying to do my squad thinking what Maresca will do. I don't want to pick my predicted lineup because ideally I wouldn't have Sanchez in goal, but I'm going to pick Sanchez in goal. Disasi, I'd go as right back. I think he's going to start there. I think he has to. We haven't got another choice. Unless we go with 3 at the back, we might see Noni Madueke playing as a right wing back, which I'm against it. You know, I don't agree with that, but I'm just thinking outside the box and thinking what Maresca might do because of the limitations on the right back position. But I think he'll go with Disasi. I think I would then go with Wesley Fofana, Levi Colwell as my centre backs. I would start Marc Cucurella at left back. Renato Vega, as I said before, looks very comfortable at left back. I think we'll see a lot more of him this season, but I just think let's try and stick and keep our solid foundations at the back, keep it as it has been through the first 3 games of the season, get that consistency with the back four, and then start maybe looking at swapping and changing it for certain games that are coming up. We've got a couple of winnable games coming up, so I'd definitely look at tweaking things in those games. But 2 in midfield, as I said before, obviously Lavia's out, so you go for Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo in those 2 holding midfield roles, the double pivot. Gets tricky when you go forward though, because obviously Cole Palmer came back, returned from England international duty very early, didn't play for England, so he's had a bit of break, bit of time out. But it's just a game where you kind of maybe give him a bit more of a rest and put him on the bench. Now, I'm kind of in the agreement that I would do that. I wouldn't start Cole Palmer. I'd put him on the bench for this game. I'd start with right on the right side. I'd have Noni Madueke. I'd have Christopher Nkunku. It's difficult, man. It's difficult. I'd have Christopher Nkunku on as the 10. And then I'd potentially go with... I'd go with Pedro Neto. I would. I wouldn't play João Felix, which is strange for me to say that. I wouldn't go with João Felix. I'd go with I wouldn't go with João Felix. I'd go with Pedro Neto on the left side, and then I would stick with Nicholas Jackson up front as my striker, as my 9, because I feel like he needs that consistency. If we're going to give him the opportunity to try and score goals this part of the season before the winter window opens again, I think we have to give him the opportunity to have a consistent run of games with the players that are going to be behind him in terms of Nkunku, whether it's João Felix or if it's Pedro Neto, and Noni Madueke obviously scoring again, assisting Harry Kane against Finland in a week for England. I think he deserves it. He started the season really well, but I do think this is a game we can potentially miss Cole Palmer, put him on the bench if we need him. He's there, we can bring him on. The same for Mudryk, the same for João Felix as well. So there are going to be options off that bench if we need them against Bournemouth. I hope we don't need them. We should be able to cope without bringing on Cole Palmer, but you know, it could be a difficult game, could be a very difficult game like we did have against Palace in the second half at Stamford Bridge a couple of weeks back. But I am looking forward to this game. I'm pretty sure it was the last time we played Bournemouth. It was the halfway goal from Caicedo. I'll have to check that and look that up, or someone in the comments let me know if that's the fact. But I'm pretty sure it was that goal from the halfway line that didn't actually win goal of the season, which it should have done, because it was a brilliant goal from Caicedo. But we need to be strong, compact in that midfield in the middle. You know, Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, they have to have the cohesion, the understanding of each other in that midfield. Sometimes we're a bit open, and it's really easy to play through us. I felt like Crystal Palace did that in spells in the second half. City were able to do it and capitalise on it in the opening game of the season. So I think sometimes we're a bit too easy to play against in that midfield, and we have to be tight and keep things compact, and even the fullbacks as well. You know, they have to understand where their position has to be correct. You know, they need to know when to press forward and when to be sat back, and understand that it has to be done almost, again, in cohesion. It has to be done correctly. Again, I think we'll lose a lot of that on the right hand side with Axel Disasi if he starts. But I keep saying it, I'm going to say it one more time. I would not be surprised if Maresca potentially might go to a three at the back. I don't think he done that for Leicester. I think he was more 4-2-3-1, but we'll have to see. I personally, I'm against it, because I think play the players if you've got them to do that. You'd have a right wing back in like Reece James or someone like that, but we haven't got that. And I think if we played Axel Disasi as a right wing back, we'd be asking way too much of him to play in that role myself. So yeah, let's just stick to what we're trying to do in terms of making sure that we don't over commit ourselves in those attacking options going forward, and then we actually don't leave too much spacing behind us as well, and puts a lot of our centre backs at under pressure. So yeah, we need to obviously, yeah, we need to win the game. You know, we need to win the game. We're currently sat in 11th place. Bournemouth, I think, in 8th place at the moment. Obviously, a lot of football will be played before our game. So yeah, before our game kicks off. So we'll kind of understand the state of play a little bit better tomorrow night when we kick off at 8 o'clock. But let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know who you would start. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think about the press conference as well. Are we going to get 3 points? I think we will. I think the score is going to be, I think we're going to win 2-0. I think we're going to win 2-0. I'm going to go for a Noni Madueke special, and I'm going to go for a Chris Nkunku penalty. So let me know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like the video and all that stuff as well. And until next time, I'll be back soon. Take care. Enjoy the game. We'll be back soon.